Hello, folks. You're all very welcome back to the Celtic podcast. As we come to the end of another season, it was a season of ups and downs, but there was more ups at the end than there was downs. So last week we were celebrating winning the league in dramatic fashion. I wouldn't say the cup final was an anticlimax, but it was a much more relaxed affair, enjoyable affair. The tension wasn't there. Celtic looked comfortable for most of the game. Dunfermline did come back into the game in the second half, as we expected, but I think it was just a bit levels in this game. But fair play to Neil Lennon and Dunfermline, and fair play to Martin O'Neill for delivering a double that no one believed he could when he came back for the second time. Joining me, as always, on the Celtic Soul podcast for our weekly therapy session is Glasgow journalist and, as I always say, all-round good guy and great friend, Michael Pringle. Michael, have you been celebrating the double?
Good morning, I have, yeah, in my own sort of quiet way. I'm a non-drinker, as you know, but I had 2 rums on Saturday night when I came home, so I pushed the boat out a bit, So, but as you said, at Tannadice, given that poor display at Tannadice, I was talking about this through the week, that there's no way we said we had to win every game, but realistically, that didn't look as if there was a high probability of that, so it's just a phenomenal end. And you're right. After the sort of delirium of the week before, it was almost a foregone conclusion. I think at half time that we'd win the double. Dunfermline did come back into it, fair play to them, but it was almost like an exhibition game in the first half. I don't think Dunfermline really. At the most, I would have been disappointed that none of my players had taking a yellow card or anything like that, no, because they didn't seem to. The first half seemed to pass Dunfermline by, I think, to some extent. There was a lot of Celtic dominance of the ball, and they just didn't get going. I don't know if that's just because we're at a completely different level for them, but I watched the playoffs final with Partick Thistle and St Mirren the other night, and there didn't look much between them, to be fair. I mean, Thistle edged out Dunfermline in the previous games, and there didn't look much between them and St Mirren. And to be fair, St Mirren took a League Cup off us this season. So I don't think the levels are that huge between the bottom of the Premier and the top of the Championship. So I don't think Dunfermline really turned up in the first half, but they certainly did in the second half and made a bit more of a fist of it. But we were worthy winners in the end, and it was good to have that pressure off. I mean, every game we've been into, there's been so much pressure, but it just seemed as if that just wasn't there on Saturday. It was another great day, and what a way to round off a season that back in April I wouldn't have bet on. I mean, we spoke about this. We didn't expect us to be winning a double back in April, no. So, phenomenal, really, when you think it. And the meltdowns continued on off over Edinburgh way, and they've lost their captain and striker as well. So there's never a dull moment as on Scottish football. And St Mirren remain in the Premier League as well. I was talking about that as well through the week. I think really it should be time when there's 2 up and 2 down for the Premier, and maybe a third bottom should play a playoff against maybe third and fourth for the Championship. We make it a bit just to freshen the league up a wee bit. I mean,
it's hard, but Michael, I think it's hard for the likes of Thistle. You know, they've won a couple of games in the playoffs, and then they have to play a Premier League team. You know,
well, that's it. I mean, if Raith Rovers or Dunfermline had managed to get up, they would need to win 6 games. No, third and fourth place need to win six games to actually get up. I mean,
it does favour
the season.
It does favour the Premier League team, doesn't it? Really,
it's weighted far too heavily, but that's just all about self-preservation of the top teams, I suppose. No?
So obviously, I've been following the meltdown after the league game.
But But
But
we've had,
I haven't been so much since the cup final because Connacht came home on Friday, so we
I've seen
had
that.
the Loud Derby, drawn it in the dark. Then we just made it 1 minute. We made it because we flew at
I watched a bit
12:30.
of it. I watched a bit of it actually.
And but we just made the cup final. We flew out at 12:30. Flight was a little delayed, but we got to Hampden with a minute to spare through the turnstiles and in to our seats. And but the first thing I noticed when we got into the seats was the atmosphere looked great on both ends. Connor
Yeah,
said to me, he said, fair play to the Vermont. They've took a big allocation. They've
yeah,
brought their
they did.
colours. They've brought their tifo. We met a couple of them on the train. They were looking forward to the game. And then you look to the left and from where we were, and the atmosphere looked brilliant behind the goals. There was there
Yeah.
was plenty of colour. So like it had that, and obviously the weather was nice. So I had that kind of
Oh, Hampden and the Sun's always a.
fun factor, and like
Uh,
with the pressure of the league off, and plus we
mm,
were odds-on favourites to win that game on paper, but we were playing them on
yeah.
grass. But so and then like I think at half time Connor said it just hasn't really ignited, has it? And I said, well, I know you were watching from afar. The league games are 7 o'clock in the morning, and
Aye.
I said, and it was so tense. It was always going to be, but I says, don't ever take these days for granted,
No,
because earlier in
you
the
don't know the
season
next
we
one's
didn't
going.
think we didn't think this was going to happen, and back in the 90s, this certainly didn't happen. What a
No.
dominant team now. It's phenomenal what we've done, but that's down to the size of the club, the fan
Mm,
base. Things like this don't happen. You know, without the support and with the Green Brigade, whatever people think about them, with the Green Brigade coming back into the stadium, it's
uh,
certainly, and everyone just saying, right, let's park our differences. Although I did see the board being reminded at the end of the game that
yeah.
it is time for change and that they did get us into this downward slope before Martin O'Neill came in and rejuvenated and lifted us. But when I think back, Michael, to that Dundee United game, to social media and the meltdown from Celtic fans, because a lot of them
Yeah.
thought this is the end. But Liam Scales was interviewed after, and he said that they knew if they won all the games, they would win the league
That's
and
it, huh?
the cup, and they took
It's a
it one
big
game at a
ask,
time.
though. Mm,
And he was kind of hinting that that was the Martin O'Neill factor in the dressing room.
yeah.
You
I
know,
mean, it was a huge ask to win those games, given the standard of the opposition. I mean, no just Hearts and Rangers. You had Motherwell and and Falkirk, who both caused the other teams and ourselves big problems this season, though. So it wasn't like a normal top six split when you go in and you can take two of the games you take 6 points for two of the games, you're almost guaranteed them, and then the other ones are up for grabs. There was nothing up for. There was nothing that was sure about going into the last five league games anyway. And given how poor we were at Tannadice, I mean, I think I wrote. I said that day I didn't think we would win the league. I thought we were going to have to win every single game, and I don't see us doing it. So how wrong was how wrong was I? But you would have got long odds at the bookies that day. I think us winning the title, never mind the double. You know what I mean? But it's been a weird, weird season. Touching on your going back to the meltdown. I mean, Stacey's uncle, Barry. I better name him this week because he probably won't be listens to the pod. And I described him as Stacey's relative last week that I'd popped into the pub to see. So our Uncle Barry sent me a video for Sharky's Bar down at the Gorbals after the game, and there was a live band on stage singing Sunshine on Leith, where the whole pub in uproar knows, singing, singing along. No, so I've yet to speak to him since then, but he looked well gone. I
but there
thought
was
about giving him.
we went in to we went back to the number 10 to meet friends after the game and just to calm down, we'll say, to let the traffic pass and jump on a
Yeah,
train back in the city. With a couple in the city then. No, sorry, we ended up in the tall cranes.
Right, right. That's a bit of a stretch. That's quite a distance for a number 10.
Heinzie lives over that way, and he said, "Come on, Connor'd never been to the tall cranes, so he wanted to go." So we said, "Right, we'll go there before we go out into the sea." And it was hopping there. It was a great crack. But I haven't been in the tall cranes since we played Dundee United in Ibrox. I think it was the semi-finals of a cup back maybe in the late 90s. Because
it's not changed much, huh?
Yeah, well, I thought it did. No, I thought it had changed, and then Heinzie told me it was burnt down, and so and bumped into a few familiar faces from trips, especially away in Europe and that. So we had a great crack, and then back into the city, and obviously the Irish pubs in the city are buzzing, and but it was a strange journey home, Michael, because. And going over, we were on a 12:30 flight. There was a couple of Celtic fans on it, but a lot of them hadn't got tickets. They were just going over,
right?
To enjoy the day. So it didn't really matter if they made kickoff or not. Whereas we were kind of not in a panic,
stressed. Aye,
Donna had an earlier flight booked, and I said, "Why don't you go on the early flight? At least you'll definitely make kickoff." But we'd had a heavy night on the Friday night after the football. I was gigging, and I think he said, "No, I'll take my chance with you." Which gave him a couple of hours kip, But there was a load of DJs. So obviously he's a dance DJ. So a couple of local DJs heading out to play in clubs that night. But there was also a big dance festival on the weekend.
That's right, Big Fly at the Riverside.
Two of the headline DJs were Irish boys, and Connor they'd been in Toronto the week before, so we bumped into them. So the conversation on the way off was more about music than it was about the match, which would be, if we had been on an earlier flight, the focus would have been on the match. Then we flew back out of Edinburgh at 2:00 on Sunday. And again, some Celtic fans on. Some had obviously had a good night. They were still wrecked. But there was a lot of Leinster rugby fans on. And I think they were coming from, I thought they must have played in Edinburgh. But the final, I think, was in Bilbao or something. They had their Champions League final. So they were coming back in. But like when you listen to them talking about, the rugby, it's just a completely different buzz than listening to football fans. It's chalk and cheese,
Yeah.
And without slagging them off, Frank, that's the sport and that. And I have a nephew that plays for Leinster, so but it's just just a different,
rugby fan.
Complete different buzz. I think
I had a rugby fan experience not that long ago. I think it was last year. I think it was last January, and I'm through to Edinburgh for a leaving party for the photographer in my work, and there was a rugby match on that day. Scotland were playing somebody, and I took a train back for Edinburgh, and it was full of rugby fans now. So, and I got chatting to a few of them, and called them egg chasers, and aye. So one woman had a few bottles of wine along with a packed lunch on the train, and it completely is a different vibe, you know what I mean? But it's not for me. It's not not for me. I mean, I always found it bizarre that I came back at it. I think it was the first Rugby World Cup I watched. I did watch rugby years ago, but it became so defensive, and the aim of the game to me looked like get the ball and kick it out, and I was like, this is just, what is this, Storicatav lineouts? You know what I mean? I'm like, this is pathetic, man. So, and I think it was like the lowest scoring. I think England won the World Cup that year. I think, I'm not quite, don't quote me on that, but and it was as boring as any. But I remember watching the first Rugby World Cup, and that killed it for me, So
well, there was 4 Leinster fans in front of us. We were getting on the plane nearly last, and there was a couple of Celtic fans behind us, and they'd been in the pub in the airport having a couple of pints, and they were talking about the night before the game, the crack, who they met, blah blah blah, But the conversation in front of us was about what school they went to, who they played for, and what they won, and the pressure. There was a kid with them, and one of them said, "You're under huge pressure." Because of what your grandfather and your father won, So
I think it was very sort of middle class sport here. No, there was very few of the schools had rugby pitches. The bigger ones, but the comprehensive schools here had red ash football pitches if you were lucky, and that was your whack, you know what I mean? So everybody played football. I remember one or two schools with the rugby pitches, but the majority of the red ash football pitch, and I was more a sort of, I think it still is to an extent, a more a middle class
Yeah,
sport.
a
And
lot of
here
private
anyway, I don't know
schools.
about in Ireland, but
A
in
lot of
Scotland,
private schools now, well, especially in this area, a lot like in a lot of private schools, the paid schools, I think they're called public schools over there already. They would be, big rugby.
yeah,
They would play rugby, whereas most of the schools here would be GAA, and then some of
yeah,
it be soccer. But like Sandra's nephew Leon, he's playing with the under-18s. He's a brilliant Gaelic player as well. But
right,
obviously the rugby path is a professional path if he makes it. No pressure, Leon.
yeah,
But he's in the 18 setup, but he's training with them. He'll be away now. He was in Europe with them there, playing and on camps. And now his summer now. 3 days out of his week is going to be
right,
spent in Dublin with Leinster. So like even at this age, say Leon's about 16 maybe. Even at this age, like he's basically full time playing rugby, and he's still playing club football in Gaelic. But
right.
he's been asked to play for the county, but it's just too much.
Mm.
So and he is
Funny on that, we were talking about the Gaelic. I would say I watched a bit of your Derby match on Friday. Stacey's uncle Barry's a Derry City fan. His family are for the Derry, County Derry originally. So, but he was flicking it between channels, so I seen the first goal. But I noticed Derry were playing at the Celtic Park rather than the Brandywell on at the weekend there. I'm not sure the reason why. I don't know if it's redevelopment work or something going on, but
I haven't a clue.
I don't know. Aye, I'm off on a tangent again here.
No, like the
Just
atmosphere at the Drogheda Dundalk game, like that's the biggest game for. Because that's the loud
mm.
derby. There's only
I seen
two.
Dundalk scoring. No,
Yeah,
I,
and you
I
know
watched
what?
up to
And
not long after that.
I think before the game, big centre half was missing. A lot of the Drogheda fans were kind of, they were fearing the worst. Some of them.
Mm,
I was doing the tunes in one of the bars in the ground, and they were coming in and they were saying, such a body's not in the team, and such a body's not in the team. And then I thought the first half Dundalk were the better team, but the second half Drogheda got back in, it got the equaliser. But I thought of the Sultans of Ping lyric: if God wanted the ball to be, if God wanted the ball to be, God wanted the game to be played up in the air, He would have put the
mm.
goalposts in the air. There was a
Uh,
lot of, it was just a,
aerial football.
yeah, there was a lot of just, it was blood and guts and just keeping,
There was a lot of that in our game against Hearts last week. I think they came with that sort of game plan and all, try and win the second. They did win a lot of the second balls, to be fair, but I mean, there was a lot of high balls, chaos football, as I've heard it described for Hearts. But aye, they try and get the breaks off of what's going. But aye, and thankfully we didn't fall into it really. Aye. Anyway, I'm off on one
anyway,
again.
well, that's the whole idea. That's the whole idea of the podcast. It's not scripted.
Mm,
But yeah, I like Saturday. The atmosphere I thought was good. I thought it was very relaxed. It was
Yeah.
everybody around us was really enjoying it. It was
Mm-hmm.
the
That was it.
carry.
Was there was no real stress in the game.
No,
You know what I mean?
no,
So, and if the
and
way the
then
first half went, just made it even more relaxed. I think, no. So,
yeah,
and I think quite a lot of people were only too unhappy that Dunfermline actually got a goal, something to show for their day out. You know what I mean? So, I don't think anybody could have grudged them that 3-1. But I expected us to score again after that, right enough. So, but Iheanacho, great again coming off the bench. It's going to be interesting to see who we keep hold of and who goes. No,
yeah,
I'd be
like
really
like
disappointed if Engels goes. No, I know there was a bid came in for him, but I'd be really disappointed if he went. But I wouldn't be disappointed with Maeda going, even though I'll be gutted. But he's gave us he's gave us everything in his time, no, and we can't really grudge him a big move if he gets a big move, no. So,
yeah.
it's going to be interesting.
You named the three goal scorers there. Three good goals as
Mm,
well. I think the pick of them probably was Inacho's. He was just it was as if the ball was stuck to his foot.
I know.
He has got. It's phenomenal that like he's not fit at this stage in the season, the end of the season.
I don't know what you read into that. No,
you know,
I don't know.
And then Engels. If we don't know who's going to get the job, if O'Neill stays on, which he said he was he was going to be meeting with the owner. I presume he means Dermot Desmond. So if he stays on, Engels stays on. Apparently, well, Dermot is a big fan of Engels, but and O'Neill would have wanted Engels to stay because he is one of the few players that are physical.
I find it quite surprising that you say Dermot Desmond's a big fan of Engels, given the hullabaloo over the money we spent on him and Trusty and how it was disastrous things, and then the checkbook sort of get closed after that to over £3 million or whatever. No,
I think the Engels thing is. The reason he stayed was because O'Neill came back. Because that was big money that was offered to him by Forrest.
He was key to
if O'Neill goes and we don't qualify for the Champions League, Engels they'll cash in on Engels. And made it looks like Michael will be saying goodbye to him, especially if he has a good World Cup. His value had dropped during the season because he didn't get that move away, and people were saying he was sulking. Fair play to you. You said no. It's just not happening for him. He's given full effort. But, in the 7 games, in the run into the league and the cup, he just got better and better and better. And I'll tell you one thing, he will never be forgotten by the Celtic fans. And this season will never be forgotten. And I for one, if he does go, wish him all the best. But I'll tell you one thing, I'll miss him because he worked harder than any player this season.
Phenomenal work.
His work rate is incredible. And it was interesting to see young Callum Osman talking about him and saying, like, he just never seen a player who worked as hard as him or had the energy. Because he was asking what was it? He said, I wish he spoke English so I could ask him more questions.
I know it's quite surprising that he doesn't speak English, given he's been here for 4 years or whatever. No, so it's quite surprising that he doesn't. Maybe he probably does a bit, but just doesn't feel confident enough to use it when he's in the media. You know what I mean? But
the Scottish media, if you say anything wrong, they'll pick up on
it.
But I mean, I think we knew, but I think people outside Celtic now know that Celtic don't have many fans in the media.
Oh no!
And sadly, Martin O'Neill has come out and called them out, and fair play to him because it needed to be said. And he's come out and he's been like he's put his head in the chopping block talking about players being assaulted and that. And he's saying, well, if they were, it's wrong, but we need to see proof. You know, like.
I know. There's still nothing. I mean that. Release the audio, and we want to hear the audio, and the audio just absolutely nails it. You know what I mean? The game was done, so it's just absolute nonsense. It's all deflections, smoke and mirrors. They were just so sick on the day that
killing them.
It's just
killing them.
It's killing them. It's killing
because like when you think of it, we were driving by Ibrox to go to the tall cranes while there was thousands of Celtic fans outside Celtic Park celebrating a double. So I didn't see I was on the bus coming from Edinburgh Airport for the Motherwell game, and it was full of Rangers fans, and there was just me and another lad, Mihal. He's in our club, and there was just 2 Celtic fans in the bus. He was wearing a GAA top. I wasn't wearing colours, and there wasn't a peep out of them because they're just like. They were still in mourning, I think, for the season. So normally, even sometimes it'd just be banter, but sometimes you get the odd prick on wanting to talk out of tone, we'll say. But so Dave, the media and the Rangers fans and the Hearts fans and anyone outside the Celtic and Hibs is having a meltdown of a summer, and as the weather gets warmer, they're going to meltdown even more.
Hearts fans have went into meltdown mode with their captain leaving as well. I've noticed on X. No, there seems to be a lot of them slating him for the way he's leaving the club and stuff. No, but probably a good move for Rangers, but he's 30, you know what I mean? But he's a guaranteed goals for Shankland, I suppose. But where does that leave their Shermiti, their record signing almost, not I mean? Well, after Torrey Andre Flo, but the record signing for this club. So I would put it Shermiti. I don't want to go on about them. I'm more interested in who stays and who leaves at our club. No, I take it Hatate would probably be leaving.
That could possibility, yeah. I hope Johnson doesn't go.
No, I haven't even thought about him leaving. That would be unthinkable.
Because if he's a good World Cup, he's one of the host nations. Yeah. There's going to be a lot of focus on him, especially because he plays this side of the water. Colin was saying the interviews with him on Canadian television. He said, they're just cringy, like the awesome atmosphere at Celtic Park.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. He said it's like he's trying to watch the I think it must be on ESPN or something over there, the games, Like he said,
it would be good to tie down a few of the players and all that. Maybe Sarachi almost would be a great signing, I think, even though he's no guaranteed first to be first in line
and bring back the little Mexican as well, and then you've got 4 really quality full backs.
Yeah, aye.
Wouldn't that be fantastic?
But when you think, you still got Jota and Carter Vickers as well to come back, no?
I'm hearing Jota won't be ready now till October.
Well, somebody said that, aye, but I don't know.
Carter Vickers looks fairly. He's back in training, I think, wasn't he? Like,
aye, I think he was close to making the squad supposedly, but aye. But when you think we've got them, but there's how many we're going to lose? I mean, we've got a number of loan players that are going to go.
Gonna have to cut the squad, Michael, because as you say, you'll have all them loanies coming back as well.
Yeah, we need to get the manager sorted out first. Who's going to be in place? I mean, that's the thing. Is Martin staying? I don't think it's the best idea for Martin to be staying, but on the flip side of that, I'm worried about who comes in. Aye, I'm worried about if he doesn't stay, then who do we get? that's a worry, I just don't think. I think if Martin was to bow out now, then he leaves with that season there. I mean, that miraculous recovery from where we were. I don't think he can top that next season. Could maybe possibly win a treble, but would it beat the way we done that there? I don't think that's going to be a possibility, So it could be that. Just sometimes it's better just to bow out when you're at the top, and he's prone again. But it just depends on his appetite for. I mean, this may well have whetted his appetite for another go at it, another season. But aye, it'd be good to get things sorted quickly. But that's never the Celtic way, is it? No.
Yeah,
it's
but
always
he
drag.
He's gonna need time, just to come down from the high. They were asking him straight after the game, and he said, if you were asking me, could I do it now? No. In 3 days, could I do it? No.
Aye.
So, but I think he just feels, I think it's just brought him alive. I just thought he never thought the chance would come again. And when it came, he grabbed it with both hands, Michael. And he's just, he was a legend after the first time, getting us to the final in Seville and our first treble since Jock Steen. But just this last couple of months, he's just,
I don't know what the alternatives are. That's the thing. No, some of the alternatives been named. Wouldn't they be favourable appointments? I don't think. No. So I don't know. But unless they've got some sort of left field person in mind, if Martin doesn't take a job, no. I mean, if you cast our minds back a couple of years, we had Eddie Howe, the Eddie Howe saga.
And we got Ange.
So, and we got Ange, so which no one seen coming, and that was, for me, that was just the most phenomenal football that I've seen.
I'd love to see. I'd love to see Ange.
So dynamic.
Oh, if
I doubt that'll happen.
But if he can back, because you know what you're going to get. You're going to get exciting football.
Oh, aye. Yeah, definitely.
I remember George McCluskey saying to me, like, I was saying to George, I was like, the there's attack, and like he said, I played up front for Celtic. He says, but he says I'm even going relax. You know what I mean? When he came in first, but as you said before, you could see what he was all about, and he's a student. He was a student of the game, and then we speak about Maida, Kyogo. These are players he brought to the club. You know, he looked in. He looked in. I remember him speaking even about an Iranian player one time. He was saying you just need to look in other markets. So, and like it doesn't always work, but certainly, you know, the first batch, we'll say, of Japanese players worked. Not so much after that. They were going into they were dipping into the market and taking chances. So I think out of Kyogo was obviously the first, and then Maida, Hatate, and what was the other lad that came in? He got injured against Alawa, I think, and he never really recovered. Answers on the postcard. Yes. He got injured in Alawa, and then he never really recovered and went down on loan. And then the rest that came in after that just went as good. But
the ones that come in this season, didn't they?
Well, Robbie Keane's been mentioned in the papers over here, but then he's been mentioned about going to
so divisive.
Slovakia or Slovenia. I'm hearing as well.
Well, we enjoy Slovakia or Slovenia then.
No,
I think it'd be a crazy move to bring him in.
It wouldn't go down with a large section of the support. Motherwell manager, there's talk of him now heading for Toulouse.
He's gone. So
that deal is done, is it?
That's done. He's off. So
that's the only one now.
We dodged a bullet.
What?
We ask you, but I'm not so sure. I read some reports that think we sort of dodged a bullet with Askew, but I don't think so. I think it had just due to his lack of previous experience with bigger clubs. You know what I mean? But I think when do you get the chance with a bigger club? You know what I mean? I thought he had all the right attributes of his team playing in the right way. So I think I'd worth a gamble going for him. I mean, of course they have. You know what you're getting because we've seen how they were performing. I heard somebody saying that their form had dropped off a bit, but even in the run in there, they were unfortunate not to get a point for us. They took a point off Hearts and they won at Ibrox. So if that's your form dropping off, then it's not so bad. I mean, especially you're at a small provincial club like Motherwell. You know what I mean? But I mean that's somebody we've seen what he can do, but it's most likely that if Martin doesn't stay for another season or two, then we'll probably get somebody that we know very little about. You know what I mean? I don't think many people knew anything about Wilfred Nancy. Nobody really knew anything about Postecoglou, Barry's World Cup experience with Australia. So, we're not going to get somebody that's setting the heather alight in the English Premiership anyway, the English Premier League. So, what sort of market are we shopping in, and who's going to fit our style of play, and who's going to know the Scottish game, etc. So, it might just be better if Martin stays for another couple of seasons, because it might not be better thinking about
it. It has to be like the board. Well, there's changes in the boardroom. Many hope, but it's all gone quite there. But they never really. There's not much communication anyway. But
Martinez has been mentioned again. I've heard in some circles. No, I just don't know. I mean, he's been mentioned for over a decade. I think beginning the Celtic job. No, I mean, maybe even longer than that. So, see where he's at after the World Cup.
Yeah, but see, after the World Cup, like during the World Cup, we'll be back. Play probably qualifiers, back in pre-season anyway. Some of the players, so like it's going to be a short enough summer, and there's so much work to be done off the field and on the field. So I would like to see a manager being appointed fairly quick, and if it's O'Neill, well then give him the money and see. And I think O'Neill has been very complimentary to his backroom staff as well. He's realised that the game has moved on, but it's still the game. It's still the game he loves. And I think if you have that mix of maybe coaches with modern philosophy in the game, but someone that still has that, doesn't complicate it too much.
I noticed Martin and Sean Maloney sort of switching places quite often on Saturday. I mean, dugouts or no dugouts at Hampden, they're sort of part of the stand where the substitutes and the coaching staff sit. But I seen Sean Maloney doing within the technical box, and Martin was standing in an elevated position up the stairs at the top of what is technically the dugout. But I seen them swapping places a few times during the game, where Sean would go back up the stairs and stand where he might just be that elevated position where you're able to see things a wee bit better as well. Maybe, but I noticed that the two of them swapping places.
He did say in an interview, but when he was complimenting the coaching staff, he says when he sees his captain coming over and he doesn't want to speak to him, he wants to speak to Sean Maloney. But in fairness to him as well, he's dealt with the media fantastically. When he had to be sharp with them at the end of the season, he was. And when he had to charm them, he did. He charmed them for most of the season. He was able to deflect stuff away. But I think Neil Lennon has done exceptionally well with the team he has. They were second from bottom when he took them over. You see him raising Martin's hand, like the master and the student, if you like to put it. They go back a long way to Leicester. And even further than that, when Martin O'Neill was Wycombe manager, he was commentating on the lower division game. And Neil Lennon was playing for Crewe. And he said, if I ever managed a team and there was money, he said he'd be the first player I'd sign. So he has that. There's a huge respect from them. But he obviously loves management, Lennon, because he went into a team who second from bottom, and he's took them to the playoffs, and he's took them to a cup final, beating 3 Premier League teams in the way. So Lennon has his critics, but he also speaks.
I'm amongst them. I'll be honest. I'm amongst them.
And especially after the
I think he's lacks self-awareness at times, and I think he showed it again after the cup final there, having another dig at the fans, a lot of who were singing his name, you know what I mean? So,
well, I didn't hear that now, but I think after not winning the 10 that time, but he has proved, elsewhere.
Interesting to see that
he can win
that championship, next season.
So, and I think speaking to the family fans, they're really happy. They were really happy with the upturn in fortunes this season. But and I'm doing a gig. I'm comparing for the Kilkenny Supporters Club, the Wolftown Kilkenny, down in Egan's Bar.
And I've seen they've got him on it. I'd noticed that.
I done one a couple of years ago down there with Tomo and Sutton, and it's a brilliant gig because it's in a pub. It's their members get first refusal, and then they put the tickets out, and it's that kind of atmosphere where you're sitting around drinking pints, and the questions are fired in, and most of them boys are week in week out Celtic boys,
Yeah, I know.
It's one of them ones because sometimes now these shows are in theatres and that, and there's no question and answers. It's just interview format, and some of it's very polished. But this will be. I'm looking forward to this one. That's on. So we head to Spain next week for the festival in Spain, and then it's the following Saturday night. So I'm looking forward to that one, because. The last time I interviewed Lenny, he was playing for Nottingham Forest.
Right.
So that's how long it's been. And I think the last time I spoke to him, I bumped into him. He works for Irish TV sometimes, and I bumped into him one night. He was covering the Champions League game. I was going to a play with Sandra, and we bumped into him. We were chatting to him and that. And so I'm looking forward to getting his thoughts on everything. And I love
I actually interviewed him. I actually interviewed him one time. He was joined the beefy walk with Sir Ian Botham. He joined a leg of that in Lanarkshire. I was walking alongside Ian Botham. I don't know if Ian Botham knew anything about him joining them right enough, but he was there with Ian Jamieson, the Celtic media guy, So I managed to catch a few words with him for the local paper back then.
Very good.
It wasn't really about football. It was about his walk.
So we've now
he's walking the park.
We've now brought rugby and cricket into the podcast.
Aye, there you go.
Yeah, so that's Saturday week. Just give the lads a shout out. There's 25 tickets left for that if anyone fancies it. It'll be a no cameras, no videos gig. So they're the ones I love doing. Because they're like the old ones you used to do years ago when
I can relax a bit.
Well, this week we celebrate the Lisbon Lions, 59 years of the Lisbon Lions, Michael.
Yeah.
And like I've been lucky enough to interview a lot of them, and obviously some became friends over the years because of especially John Fallon and through John, Charlie Gallagher, Big John Hughes. These were just great. We had Billy McNeil over here, Tommy Gammon. And when you go back, there was no camera phones then. There was no social media. So when them boys spoke at functions, it was some of it was like comedy shows, and they could be themselves. Whereas now, a lot of the players, probably weary. Can you imagine this time now of the year when they're on holidays with their families and that, or with their mates, the younger players, and they're out for a couple of points? If they're spotted, they're going to be all over social media within a minute. So, so it's just a kind of it's a different kind of setup, and that's why I do like doing these gigs, because the one in Spain, I think there's only 50 weekend tickets left for that in Rose McGuire's. That starts this day next week, so we're recording this on Wednesday, and then it runs right through. Officially opens on the Thursday, but there's a gig on the Thursday night.
Where is that? Where in Spain is it?
It's Cabaret. It's about a 20-minute drive from Torrevieja.
Torrevieja.
You've been over in Torrevieja. So and so but I've been there before. The PA, the systems, everything they have is first class in the place. And speaking to them last night, a few ideas for social media and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to that, because a lot of friends are going. And a couple of months ago when we were working on this and planning it, it was there were tough times, and no one really wanted to think about the end of the season because of what was coming.
I know.
But
it's incredible.
Since the league was won, ticket sales that weekend went through the roof, and then the cup was won and ticket sales up again. And I actually had a
good factor.
Yeah, they contacted me yesterday to say there wasn't many left. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that, because I had to send a few texts out to mates and say, look, if you haven't got your ticket, just grab them now, because
it's
not. I'm the compere. It's not my gig, and obviously there's only so many people can get in. So yeah, so that's a couple of events. I've been a bit of a plug for them, because I'm thankful to get the work from them. Highs and lows of the season, Michael. Obviously the highs was the last week of the league.
Yeah, aye, yeah. Of course, the last week of the league, those 3 games in 6 days, I think it was, just absolutely incredible. I mean, just phenomenal. I mean, the game against Rangers was, I mean, the atmosphere inside the ground was incredible, and then my main worry was getting into the 3 games. My main worry was the Motherwell game, believe it or not, just because I thought we're away from home games will take care of themselves. That was my main worry. So, and first 25 minutes of Fir Park, well, I never seen the first couple of minutes, but the first half hour until we scored, there was a real fear there that it was going to run away from us that game. And I thought I cast my mind back to the Scott McDonald goals and stuff, and how it just got slipped away from us that day. And I thought this might be the night it slips away from us again. But so that was a huge moment as well. I mean, they're going about the penalty and stuff, but I mean, we can argue all day long about the penalty. Even if we'd got the point, we still won the out. We didn't need to beat them by 3. We beat them by 2. Who's not to say if we needed that extra goal, we would have beat them? Who's not to say if Hibs didn't get a goal that stood against us, we would have needed that? It's all ifs and buts, you know what I mean? But or the penalty that we should have got at Easter Road, you know what I mean? These things are all. I mean, they only look back. They're only bringing out that one incident to But that was a high for me. 3 games. I mean, it's usually you pick one game, but for me, 3 games bundled together was a package, and we had to win a lot of them, and we certainly did. And the scenes at the end of the game, I mean, some people have labelled them unsavoury and stuff, but it was just that will stick in my mind for the rest of my life. That day, that Hearts game. I mean, it was to win the league like that was just incredible, phenomenal stuff. No, the lows, so many lows, man, this season. So I don't even know where to start. Probably you start at the start and the Kairat debacle, and then the soulless stadium where the supporters missing. There's that the AGM. These seem like a distant memory now, given the sort of the euphoria in the last couple of weeks. You know what I mean? But we should really don't forget that this is where we were at as a club and stuff, and it was all self-inflicted. So I mean, there was so many lows this season that I never felt so low. I think in some parts of the season, I've had it had been a long time. I'd felt so low and so despondent about how the club was going, the direction it was going and stuff. So for it to come to for it to end the way it did is just unbelievable. No,
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Well, when I think back, Michael, I think start of the season transfer window when we didn't bring in a striker and got rid of another striker when Adamida
Yeah,
went. That was a bad start. Pre-season was good. It was, a good day out in Cork and a good couple of days in Faro.
yeah,
The league started, and then it was just then we had the whole Brendan Rodgers down with Desmond fallout, which
mm,
led to O'Neill coming in, and that was kind of a shock to us all. And his return the night we played Falkirk was a high. I think he brought us a couple of good nights in Europe. I think back to
yeah.
Rotterdam. That was a brilliant night. Apart from the fact that the Rotterdam fans weren't allowed in there, ultras were banned.
Aye, that's right.
So
We've also got
that probably favoured us.
Stuttgart. Mm.
Um,
Stuttgart a win in Stuttgart as well, which not many
but
would have given us.
it wasn't enough.
No,
Um, and then
but
the Michael Nicholson interview, welcoming Nancy to the whole Nancy thing was just a disaster. And then the positive decision of getting rid of him after saying he was the man for
I
them.
I'm still like I mean the timing of it was just horrendous. We were facing a cup final and I just thought we were ready to face Hearts and stuff. It could have been put off. It could have been put off to the end of the season. I don't know
Yeah, yeah. It was
what they
just
were thinking. It was just the timing. It was absolutely horrendous, though. Oh,
and
and it
getting rid of the head of football. That was a positive as well. What was his name? Tisdale.
Tisdale.
Yeah, but you think back, right? When I think back to the highs, it was always Matt and O'Neill. I said the Rotterdam game, struck hard away was another away win. Semi-finals of the cup, League Cup.
Aye. I wasn't
Ibrox
convinced that O'Neill was the best move either. Do you know that?
a lot of people
I wasn't.
weren't. But
How wrong was I? I'm sorry, Martin.
quarterfinals, okay, League Cup. Quarterfinals of the cup then in Ibrox.
Yeah.
That was another high point.
Aye.
The extra time in the semi-finals against St Mirren.
Mm.
You know,
I mean, the cup game at Ibrox must have been a real sickener for them because we just didn't perform at all, and yet still won the game. There wasn't a
we got
10-minute spell in the game that we looked a more dominant team. It was horrendous. Know what I mean?
yeah.
So, but we got away with one. We got away with it.
Singing Danny Roll's name, singing simply the best. The cup
I've seen the
final,
players were at it again.
and then that week, Michael, will live for me till the day I die as the greatest week I ever followed Celtic. The tension,
Yeah.
the atmosphere, the conversations, the podcast, the traveling.
Huh.
That was just it just I was so exhausted after it. It was like, maybe that's my age showing now, but
Mm.
the highs were all with Martin, and the lows were with Brendan and Dermot and Ross
Aye.
and the Wilfred Nancy and the Michael Nicholson. Like from like when I think back
Brendan
to interview.
probably escaped a lot of criticism because of the manner of his departure. No, because the football we were playing up there was pretty poor. You know what I mean, it was a horseshoe of death or whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean, it was just so slow in getting the ball forward. So I think that the manner of his departure, then the shift, the focus then shifted towards the board and what they were doing or what they weren't doing. I mean, it was already on them anyway with the poor or non-existent transfer window. And they were lucky in January, given that Martin was there, because if it had been somebody else in place and they'd been through that with a transfer window like we did again, then it would have been even worse, I think, no? So, aye. So, I think Rodgers, for me, had to go. It was time for him to go, no? But it's just the manner of his departure that left him looking almost like the good guy out it all, no? So, um, but a lot of the things he says he did get right, but I wasn't convinced that his time wasn't up anyway. I thought his time was up, no? So I
And
just
then
didn't think.
he cashed in and headed off to Saudi Arabia.
Aye, fair play to him.
But when you look at let's say Brendan's departure,
Mm,
O'Neill coming in, Matt O'Neill when he was leaving said the exact same as Brendan. They need a good transfer window. They need players in.
yeah.
And if you think
Mm,
back to after the Motherwell game when O'Neill was interviewed, he says this team lacks a lot.
hmm
You know, and it did after the January transfer window as well. This team lacks a lot, but it doesn't lack spirit. And that's really,
No, that's what carried us through, I think.
and fair play to all the players, but it is now time for a rebuild and to bring
Yeah.
in, because like we have a chance of qualifying for the Champions League. We experienced that league phase, and it is, as a fan, to go and play these teams, some of the top teams in Europe, and to,
Aye.
to get that,
You
like,
don't want to go in, you don't want to go into and get a hiding week after week. I know that's that's the other thing. The format now gives you the opportunity to get to the playoffs or the last 16. So I mean it is doable, but you need to speculate to accumulate. I think I really think we can't go up into the campaign as we did last season with no
no,
striker,
no.
etc. And we need to have a plan in place, and we need to have the players and the coaching staff in place so
Yeah.
quickly.
But if
So
you think
it's no
back,
good waiting
Michael,
till after the World Cup. Mm.
if you think back when we got that hiding in Dortmund, we're after winning the
Yeah.
first game at home against Bratislava, wasn't it?
hmm
And then we got the hiding in Dortmund, and we feared the worst going to Bologna. But
Yeah.
Rogers, we thought Rogers couldn't change it up. He did change it up. Great defensive performance. And we got
Yeah.
out there with a point. And then we kind of kicked on from then. And then we fell short against
Mm.
Villa, wasn't it, in the last game down there?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was a really exciting time. And to miss out on that last year was another low point, to miss
Mm.
out on being in that tournament, because you enjoy traveling to away stadiums in the Europa League as well, and you're probably, it's probably more competitive because the teams are not as good, but
Yeah. Well,
you
having
still, you
said
still,
that, we didn't really fare very well this season,
no,
so we
but
probably been as well being in the Champions League
that,
this
that,
season, though. So,
that was
um,
another low point. The,
aye,
the the Roma game that week. If you think about the
aye,
week we had, like, let's say, right, that week at the end of the season was the highlight, the best week of the season. If you go back to
Hearts and Roma and that.
Wilfred's first week, Hearts,
Mm.
Roma, and the cup final,
Yeah.
wasn't it? Losing to
I
St
had
Mirren.
I had my son. I had my son at Hearts and Roma, and he doesn't really like football. And any chance he had of liking it afterwards, after watching the two games, was out the window. No, he's been to one game since. So, but aye, it's a hard sell once you take him to games like that. You know what I mean? So, but aye, You
Michael,
try to explain. There's no ultras. There's no nothing. No nothing nothing to take his attention away elsewhere. Just
yeah, no colour, no flags.
Roma ultras. That was
So
it.
what? Right. So this week, as I said, 59 years the Lisbon Lions, Michael. We always go down memory lane at the end of the podcast. I was born in 1971. I'm not sure what year you were born in.
67.
So you were born in the year of Lisbon.
67, mate.
So in the heat of Lisbon, you were born.
I was
I've
a
had
few months old.
I'd done an interview at Celtic AM with Tommy, and he'd been to Lisbon. I think Tommy was about 16. Would I be right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tommy
And
Stevenson.
Tommy Stevenson. Sorry.
Yeah.
And he brought in that day to Malone's his scrapbook of all his stuff from Lisbon to show us. And it was an emotional interview with him because, Tommy loves Celtic, but like to have the memory of that. And I know Tommy would have spent a lot of time with some of the players. They have the breakfast club and they have a few different
He was
things.
sitting behind me on Saturday at the game, or standing behind me.
Yeah.
The row behind me.
Since they retired. So that's a memory I have because I wasn't then. John Fallon's Sheds, like he wrote in over 100 issues of the fanzine, and I've interviewed John probably more than anybody, both on stage and for fanzine interviews and even on the podcast. But so, to listen back to these people and the stories, Charlie Gallagher had some great stories, Billy McNeil, Tommy Gemmell, and every one of them spoke about how good of a player Bobby Moorcock was. So what kind of memories have you grown up in Glasgow and been aware of the Lisbon Lions, and maybe any memories of meeting with them or chatting to them or?
I've met a few of them over the years. Very old, but probably the one that sticks most in my mind was Billy McNeil. I don't know if I've went through this one before, but I actually met him in the airport. He was going to Milan. As I think it was one of the anniversaries of the Feyenoord game. So, and we were playing Milan. So I don't know if I've told you this before on the podcast.
But
I have. Right. Well, I'm not going to do that one again, right? But I met Billy McNeil in the airport, and everybody thought it was related to him. But Charlie Gallagher, I always remember one that sticks in my mind with him was he said to me that Jock Stein had organised for him to be transferred to one of the Manchester clubs. So he took a train down to Manchester, him and his wife. He says, and I'm standing in Manchester Piccadilly or whatever it is. So he says, I'm in Manchester Piccadilly. He says, so I'm standing there for 10 minutes and nobody appears. He says, I just got on the train and came back up the road. He says, but when I got up the road, Jock Stein was absolutely raging. He says, and he ended up, when he played me again after that, he said, he put me in the reserve team. He says, and I ended up getting transferred. He says, and I ended up at Dumbarton. He says, but his first game against Celtic, he says, him and Davy Hay had a bit of rapport, obviously. They'd known each other for a long time. And he says, Davy says, look, Charlie, you go easy on me and I'll go easy on you, so to speak. So, but I think they were drawing at half time. I'm not sure, but whatever happened, and the game's not gone in Celtic's favour. And Davy Hay came out at half time. He's obviously had a roasting for Jock Stein, though. And he says, look, Charlie, I'm going to have to go in hard on you, at Jock Stein. He says, Charlie Gallagher says, I got the ball about a halfway line in front of the dugout. He says, and I just rolled my foot at the top of it and blasted it right into the dugout at Jock Stein. He says, and he jumped up and hit his head off the roof. He says, raging. So that sticks in my mind just for it being a bizarre story, you know what I mean? But aye, so Charlie.
I remember doing one of the Celtic AMs with John Hughes, and he was better, John.
Well, that surprises me, and probably would surprise a lot of Celtic supporters that haven't heard the Lisbon line speak. That Jockstein had these favourites, and a lot of the players felt aggrieved about the way they were treated under Stein. No, so
and it's like when you think of the heroes of Lisbon, Stevie Chalmers, Stevie probably wouldn't have played if Joe McBride was fit, and I think
Stevie
Joe
the Gangad man. Oh.
And I think Joe McBride finished top scorer that year, and he didn't play from January. He did phenomenal goal return, and I think some of the Lions as well that didn't play in the final and played in other games, like Charlie and that. I think they're a bit. I think they were a bit forgotten about, and I think a lot of the Lions, the whole lot of them, are maybe forgotten about over years by the club. By the club itself.
They were treated poorly in the years afterwards, no, and it's only maybe the last 10 or 15, 20 years that they've really been recognised in the way that it should be, you know. I mean,
the statues now to them, like Billy's one at the bottom of the Paradise Way is just, it's fantastic, you know. Jimmy Johnston's one.
A lot of these statues that are appearing in towns and across the central belt are down to the communities and stuff, and the Celtic supporters rather than the club. You know what I mean? So I think that's something that shouldn't be forgotten as well. That the funding and the hard work that's going into getting these statues in place are for the supporters and for the local communities. You know?
Yeah, and the legacy that's left then, Michael, as well, is the money that's left over is given to the local communities.
Yeah,
and then these committees then become charitable organisations then, and they continue to work. Which is fantastic. And I know that Jim Craig is an excellent, but even like my own, like the John Fallon legacy, that is the school that we raised money for this year, you know. John was so proud of that, the 12th line school. You know, and I remember John getting his medal back, which was taken from him wrongly, and like Peter Law got that back for him. And fair play to Peter for that, you know. Brian Fallon spoke that night of the dinner we done for John's charity, and if you remember, he said, you know, like he was the Celtic goalkeeper, he was a Lisbon Lion, but he was our dad, like, you know what I mean? And I just thought, you know,
exactly. Barry Auld used to, when I started going to watch football, Barry Auld was the manager of Partick Thistle. And he was a larger than life. He was always a larger than life character. You know what I mean? And my dad worked in the iron foundry just next to Hampden Park, just 50, 60 yards away from it, just to the north of the. Actually, that was the stadium, or the ground was on one side of the canal, and the iron foundry was on the other side of the canal, directly overlooking it. But his sister had a shop on Firhill Road, just at the top of Firhill Road, that we used to go into, and he was always coming in out of there, and I always remember him with a cigar. He would always have a cigar, Bertie, you know what I mean? And he always had the wisecrack for everybody, you know what I mean? So, so it was just a real character, you know what I mean? So
he sat behind me in Celtic Park for a couple of seasons, and the time the Green Brigade done the Lisbon display, remember where the lads came out of the flag with the flares?
Yeah.
And he went, look at that. Look at that, you know what I mean? He was proud that day. And even, you know, he used to love when they used to sing in the heat of Lisbon on the 67 minute. It's still sang at games, but I don't think it's sang at every game now. Well,
I like to sing song better,
brilliant. And like, he came over and done a dinner for us one time, and he had the salt and pepper shakers out and the sauce, and he was doing all the tactics for us, whatever manager Celtic had at the time, how they should be playing. And he was the one that told Frank McAvenny he'd never make it as a footballer. But in the jacuzzi one time, he said, you'll never make it as a footballer. McAvenny reminded him, I think, at a couple of functions. But
McAvenny was a late starter, right enough. So
and
he was late coming into the game, no?
I watched the Vinnie Jones documentary last night. It's just
McAvenny stayed the longest street for me.
Did he? Yeah.
He stayed the longest street for me. When he was at St Mirren, his parents died. They stayed in a sort of tenement, just along it. It was actually the next street for me. Our street came off, and it sort of turned a corner, and he was the first close. So we'd say the first building, but he had a veranda, basically, a balcony, and that overlooked my street, you know. But I always remember he had a black and white Ford Capri when he played with St Mirren, no. But we had a couple of footballers in the same street. So, aye.
He came through late, so he
was a bin man or something, I'm sure. Or he worked with the street.
He got a job with a road. He got
Yeah.
a job with a road crew, I think, because he went to play football with a junior team because they hadn't enough players.
Aye, that's right.
And someone had come to watch the guy who was marking.
Aye.
And they offered him, they offered him a trial or something. But he went on to play with a junior club, and they were giving him a couple of quid, but he had to work for the company that was sponsoring him as well, something like that. Yeah. And then he went to St Mirren, West Ham, Celtic, West Ham, St Mirren. That was it. Yeah, that was it, wasn't he? He played for the three clubs twice. But it's the same with Vinnie Jones. I watched a documentary on him last night. He came from non-league and basically begged Dave Bassett to give him a chance at Wimbledon. Wimbledon had gone from non-league to the old First Division, which is the Premier Division now. So his rise was phenomenal as well, you know. But he was kind of like, you know, the way he played, they certainly wouldn't be able to play like that now. You wouldn't last any game.
Yeah.
Because there was they showed some of the tackles, and obviously the Crazy Gang went on and won the FA Cup, beating. The headline was the Crazy Gang beat Culture Club, which was Liverpool. They were probably the best team in Europe. So it's a good documentary. Good way. I watched Kylie Minogue the night before, you know. So I like my documentaries. But Goof TV, as I said to me missus, Goof TV. You can get up and leave the room and come back in, and you wouldn't have missed anything.
So you're going to say you should be so lucky or something like that.
I should be so lucky. Yeah, it was good, but you know, it's good. It's a good documentary the way the NXS stuff and Nick Cave and stuff like that. When she tried to go kind of indie and it went all pear shaped. But Vinnie Jones, his like from being an average footballer, we'll say. I remember one stage he was trying to get an Irish passport to play for Ireland, and then he ended up playing for Wales. And then the acting career he's made over 100 movies.
Aye,
couldn't believe Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels was his break. You know,
on a sort of similar, plays the same role, no, him. Almost.
Yeah. Does
same character.
Ewan McGregor is coming out.
Stereotypical character.
Is coming out of the premiere of that, and then they says, "What do you think of the film?" You know, and he said, "Yeah, it's good, yeah, very good." And he said, "What do you think of Vinnie Jones?" And he said, "Surprisingly very good."
Surprisingly.
Surprisingly very good. And it was good. John Fashioner was in the documentary, and but it's mad. Like they like Wimbledon in the First Division. The training pitch was a public park, and they used to have to queue up in a greasy spoon, which was on the public park. That was that was the club canteen. You know, so and they're actually training, and the kids are playing football beside them, the local kids. Incredible, isn't it, the way football has just completely gone full circle now? Where kids have no access really to the players unless they wait outside the ground for an autograph. Or well, now it's a picture, isn't it?
I know.
Michael, it's been a pleasure chatting most of the season.
Thanks.
There's been we shared so many lows together. And we later on in the season we got the highs that we hoped for. So hopefully we'll get chatting over the summer, because I'm sure there's going to be some talking points now over the summer. There's going to be a manager appointed. There may be a director of football. We may have a new chairman. We may have a new
players
CEO.
Going and coming
players
and
coming and going. So there may be plenty to talk about. But for now, thank you very much.
Thanks, Andrew. Have a great day.
You too.